Hey guys, Crow Cooper here with On the Black with my weekly chat with Dave Doyle of Mets Report. Hey Dave, how you doing?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Still a little sick, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So first, we're having a good Mother's Day weekend here. Happy Mother's Day to you and yours. And the Mets have won these first two games of the series so far against the Dodgers. They've got a tough one today against Kershaw. Dickey's on the mound. What are your thoughts so far of the series?
Well, the first thing I would say, they're playing well enough to win, which is great, and beating teams that they should beat that are coming in from the West Coast, so that's good. But let's face it, the Dodgers really haven't been playing that well this year, and if you look at their lineup, it's not really that impressive. They got Matt Kemp out there, who's a great player and playing well this year, but after he and Andre Ethier, there's not really a lot there on that team.
Yeah, and it's probably the one team in baseball that might be in worse of a financial position than the Mets too. So
it's hard to do that, but they apparently have.
Yeah. Chris Young, frustrating last night, at least from my standpoint. Scheduled to start. I think Chris Young arguably has probably been the best Mets starter so far this year when he's been there. Scratched last night. I guess there's a possibility that he could go on the DL. I think Dylan G did a good job last night in the emergency start. But, what do you make of Chris Young?
Well, I read this morning that the Mets have Pat Mish on a plane coming back from Buffalo already. Okay. Chris Young's going in for an MRI. So it's starting to look like he's heading back to the DL again for the second time in, 6 weeks. So, I can't really say I didn't expect this. I mean, listen, the guy's here on a $1 million contract this year after pitching in, 3 or 4 games last year. So, it's hard to say that you didn't expect him to be in and out of the lineup. And it is frustrating because when he has pitched, he's pitched so well. He's one of those guys that just knows what he's doing out there. He's getting it done with that 85-mile-an-hour fastball and looks really impressive doing it. It is frustrating.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And, I didn't expect him to make 30 starts this year. He never really does that in his career. But it is still a bit frustrating when a guy who has pitched well just can't consistently be on the mound for whatever reason. But let's switch topics. Let's talk about something positive. I want to get your thoughts on Jason Pridie and his play so far. He is going to really make it tough here for Terry Collins and Mets management to send him back down when Angel Pagan gets healthy. I mean, what are your thoughts on Pridie and when and if Pagan comes back, do you think he should stay and maybe the Mets should look at releasing Willie Harris? I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's funny. I was thinking about that last night quite a bit, and during the game, last night they were talking about that, and the one thing I'm a little afraid about with doing that is that although Willie Harris has played poorly lately, a lot of times these bench guys kind of go hot and cold, and I'm a little bit afraid that if they let Willie Harris go, who's got great versatility, I mean, he can play on the infield too at second and third base. He's not just an outfielder.
Yeah.
That if they let him go, and then all of a sudden Jason Pridie goes cold, it's going to look like a foolish move. So, I love what Pridie's doing so far, but I'm not sure that I'm buying that he's gonna do this for a season long, and especially if he's not playing every day. It's a different ball game when you're coming off the bench and trying to play like that.
Yeah, I would agree. And there was some chatter last night on Twitter about maybe bring up maybe let Harris go now and bring up Neuenhuis or Duda. And I definitely don't agree with doing something like that. Those guys need to be playing every day. And if they're not going to be playing every day at the major league level, then they should be getting their reps down in the minors. There's no need for Duda or Neuenhuis to be a bench guy at the major league level when they could be playing every day in the minors.
Definitely. And Neuenhuis will be here next month after they trade Beltran anyway.
Good one. Speaking of Beltran, I think it's interesting that Beltran and Jose Reyes are the two hottest Mets right now, and they're both free agents at the end of this year. You know, it's good to see, especially with Reyes, but in a sense, it's a little frustrating because, you know, I'm just thinking to myself, you know, where has this been the last couple of years, you know, when you guys have been often injured and not producing. So, you know, what are your thoughts on Reyes and Beltran? I know you probably think Beltran will be gone soon, but, you know, what are your thoughts on those guys?
It is frustrating, and I think, you know, that this is part of the problem with long-term contracts is that some, you know, and I'm not saying that anybody was loafing during their contract, but
definitely not saying that.
But some of the motivation isn't quite there as it is when you're in a contract year. And, you know, I had read that Rangers general manager John Daniels from Queens had questioned Adrian Beltre about that this offseason before the Rangers signed him, and asked him why he thought his two biggest years were in his contract years. And basically Beltre told him he had no explanation for that. He couldn't tell him. And, you know, it seems obvious, I think, that some players are going to be much more highly motivated in that contract year, and it makes sense, you know. I mean, anybody would be. So it is frustrating, though, when, you know, you're in a situation like the Mets are, and you see Reyes just playing his butt off out there, and it's tough because you know he's probably not going to be around next year, much less maybe 2 months from now.
Yeah, it's going to be very painful, you know, to watch him leave off of, you know, potentially looks like it's going to be one of his best years, if not his best year in his career. You know, that's going to be very painful to watch. As a fan, obviously, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope the Mets can figure out a way to keep him here, but that's going to be a sad day if he goes.
It is. I've written many times on my site that Jose Reyes is my favorite player to watch out there. Just love watching the guy play. He's so good, got so much talent. I mean, he's just got talent, you know, pouring out of him. He's so good, and it is going to be hard to see him in another uniform, whether it's the Angels or Reds or whoever he ends up playing for later this year. That it's going to be tough to see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, Dave, I want to thank you for joining me today with our weekly chat. For those out there of you watching, you could catch Dave and I doing this weekly chat every Sunday or Monday. Be sure to check Dave out at MetsReport.com. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.